We open in the wilderness. A forest. The pounding of horses' hooves across a wooded forest floor beat in a mismatched time with the rattling of a rapid heartbeat. We see a lone rider pelt through the underbrush. Branches and brambles slap and scrape against their arms and face as they gallop with reckless abandon. We hear a loud snap and a crack, and the thrush of foliage shifting as a cleverly concealed pitfall dug into the forest floor gives way beneath the mount and rider. The horse screams as it plunges downward into the pit with a crash, while the rider is hurled clear, slamming into the ground before bouncing and rolling to a stop. The rider comes to a rest, laying on their back. They struggle to draw breath and attempt to rise, only to discover that their body defies their attempts to move. They realize with dismay that they've broken their spine. Their vision blurs. They stare up at the sky through the trees. A hulking figure looms into view. The heavily muscled orc sets his jaw in a grim expression and shakes his head. He draws back his bow. The bone-white tip of the arrowhead takes deadly aim as his fingers release the string. Elsewhere. You see nothing. You hear nothing. You feel nothing. Then suddenly, a clawing, gnawing darkness gathers. Something slithers past your consciousness in the void, like an unseen sea creature brushing against your foot in a vast ocean. The presence is there for only a moment, but you panic. You recoil. You retreat into yourself. And then there is a light. A single point in the endless darkness. The only feature with which to orient yourself. You will yourself towards it. You will yourself towards the safety it represents and away from the endless black. By the light, you can see your hands stretched out before you. The light fills your vision. Aki. The blue-white light fills your vision. A sound like the rushing of the ocean rises up in your ears, and all sensation is blanked from your mind for a moment. As your senses begin to clear, you look around at the space in which you find yourself. You are in a massive atrium, larger than anything you've ever seen before. A palatial complex of stone, marble, metal, and glass, creating a multi-level central spire with branching and crisscrossing spokes extending outward in all directions, looms before you. You can hardly make out the upper levels, and the individual corridors vanish into the distance. Everything is cast in a serene blue, gray, and white. The cooling tones both softening and accentuating the hard, crisp lines of the architecture. The design of this place is unlike any that you are familiar with, and strange details keep catching your attention. The lighting comes not from lamps, torches, or lanterns, but from long, thin strips of luminescing panels along the walls. Likewise, spherical orbs made of smooth, opaque material float unsupported in the open air of the central column, adding texture and depth to the interwoven hues of blue and white that paint the space. You are jostled as somebody bumps into your shoulder as they make their way past you. Suddenly, you become aware that you are standing still in the center of a wide thoroughfare in this space, populated by a throng of individuals. You glance over. You see a dark-skinned woman with high, proud cheekbones and a 1,000-yard stare move past you without acknowledging your presence, disappear into the crowd. An old man passes you on the other side, shuffling slowly ahead. A group of 5 or 6 individuals, all wearing matching hooded brown robes, cross perpendicular to you. All around you are people of all shapes and sizes, wearing clothing in styles as varied as anything you can imagine. All of them move with slow but inexorable purpose, flowing around and past you in this place. What do you do?
I look down. What am I wearing?
You tell me what you're wearing.
Hell yeah, that's what I wanted to know. So she's probably dressed much more finely in golds and burgundies, very fine, fancy clothing, a little bit of a dress with studded leather patches about, and yeah, she's got a bunch of like gold rings and fancy jewelry, not really expensive but very ornate.
Okay.
So she feels a little bit calmer seeing that her outfit is still intact.
Her outfit is intact. Any weapons that she
Wonderful.
might typically carry upon herself? You do notice
She
you are unarmed currently. If you would otherwise be
She
armed.
normally has like a fancy rapier. It's kind of got like a fey design, but it's kind of got like icy blue elements to it.
Okay.
And then she also has a hand crossbow somewhere.
Okay. So you would find as you kind of take stock of yourself that hand crossbow is missing, and the scabbard, though it is still hung at your hip, is empty. You are currently unarmed.
Shit. All right. Do they all seem to be congregating forward, like they're walking with a purpose?
The general direction of the crowd does seem to be in a sort of a forward direction from the way that you are facing. Yes.
If I turn around, what's behind me?
Weirdly, nothing. You turn around, and 15 or so yards past where you're standing, it's almost as if a thick, dense fog obscures anything beyond there, and just sort of fades into this blank, opaque void. You do see occasionally a person will walk out of that, out of that fog, heading in that same direction that the others are going.
All right. I will cautiously go forward, kind of weaving my way through the crowd to try and see if there's a purpose.
Okay. You begin to move forward. As you make your way through the crowd, you're weaving in and out, taking care not to bump or jostle anybody. But you see that most of the individuals here seem to pay little attention to really you or anything. Most are either looking ahead, looking down. By and large, they seem to be minding their own business. It is at that point you hear a female voice trill through the air. It is ethereal and disembodied. It has a soothing cadence carrying a gentle authority, and it cuts over the endless sound of the ocean's rumble, which you now realize is not an ocean at all, but is the collective din of this crowd. As you listen to the voice, this is what it says.
Followers of Tyr, God of Justice, please follow the green line to Terminal F. This is the final call for boarding. New arrivals from the Battle of the Blood Fields of the Southern Plains proceed to Level 3 for departure to Valhalla. If you are experiencing partial corporealization, have been separated from a loved one, or have partial or complete memory loss due to post-departure shock syndrome, please seek assistance from an agent at the customer service station on Level 1. Enjoy your stay in Terminus, and have a happily pleasant after.
Oh, fuck. Alright. I guess I will attempt to find an attendant because I am not comfortable with this.
Alrighty. In a similar atrium elsewhere, Hadrian, you stand at the foot of a massive statue made of white marble. The female figure depicted is posed in a kneeling position, one knee resting on the ground, the other elevated, supporting her right arm. Her left arm extends down, reaching out as if to offer you her hand. She is carved wearing a cloak, with a deep hood pulled over her head, obscuring her face. Above you, hung between the massive open terraced upper levels, are banners, at least 60 feet wide and twice as long. On all of them, who you suspect might be the same woman as carved into the statue is depicted. However, she looks a little different. She is lean, lithe, and hauntingly beautiful, with angular features and porcelain skin. Her hair is deep black, cut short to just below her chin. She wears not the hooded cloak of the statue, but a perfectly tailored and pressed dark black suit, cut in a men's style. You watch as the image of the woman on the banner actually moves. An enchantment of some sort on the tapestry must be animating her features. She turns her head, sweeps her gaze across the masses of individuals making their way to and fro. I will pop, so if you guys are keeping track at home, you can check the check us on Twitch. I'm gonna pop a picture up for you. She turns her head. She sweeps her gaze across the masses of individuals making their way to and fro. She folds her arms and smiles slightly. And as she does, her eyes seem to pass directly over you. They are not like anything you've ever seen. Her pupils are not black, but luminescent white. She has no distinct iris or sclera, only a deep blue-black swirl of color and movement, like gazing into a bottomless ocean. For a moment, you are certain she is looking right at you. No. Not at you. Through you. Through to your very core. A shiver runs down your spine, but in the blink of an eye it passes. The image of the woman on the banners above goes back to serenely looking out over the masses, making the occasional gesture of welcome. What do you do?
What have those five sisters done to me? This is not where I once was. Do you speak, statue?
The statue does not speak, does not acknowledge you. It appears to be only a statue.
And my answers elsewhere. And I'll head off towards one of those halls, the cabin.
Okay. As you round the statue and begin to make your way, you again join a similar crowd to what I described for Aki. Sort of make your way into this crowd, and you see that all of the crowd is sort of heading, filtering to what appears to be the only way to like progress forward from this area. You're kind of taking in the sights and the sounds of this place. You remember this is not where you belong. You know that this was not where you were. You know that the sisters must have done something to you, but beyond that, you are struggling to remember how you got here or exactly what you were doing before now. You vaguely remember that it was important, but the more you try to think about it, the more it seems to slip through your grasp like a dream just upon waking. The pleasant female voice that occasionally has been making announcements as you've been standing here cheerily states, "Be sure to report any suspicious behavior to a representative. Only you can keep the shadows at bay." And you see that most of the crowd is moving in the direction of a large checkpoint of some sort. There are chrome stanchions with silvery gray ropes strung between them, forming a switchback path where people are lining up. There is, on the far side of this, a long row of strange-looking archways, one next to another. Beyond, you can see the sprawl of this place opens up. Hundreds of individuals heading off in different directions. Above the row of archways, there are large symbols that seem to be made of nothing more than light. They float in the air, and they spell out the word, Arrivals.
Is there somebody, like, close-ish to me? One of these people?
Yeah, there's, like, kind of people making their way through the crowd.
I'll go towards whoever's, like, closest to me and go, "You there! Do you speak? What is this place?"
You sort of reach out and you kind of gesture towards or try to get the attention of a sort of an older looking gentleman who is wearing sort of plain traveling clothes, and he sort of turns and looks at you with these kind of like doleful, slightly hazy eyes for a moment, and his focus rests on you for just a few seconds, and then he sort of listlessly looks away and continues on his previous path heading towards this, where you see these people are all queuing up to move towards this arrivals gate.
Thank you, Thor. You are so helpful. Either I am invisible or no one in this land speaks. And I'll head towards the arrivals gate.
Alrighty. As you approach the gate, you kind of get into this queue, and as you're moving along, you begin to be able to get a better look at these archways as you get closer and closer to the front of the line. They are roughly 10 feet in height, about half as wide, and they are made of a sleek-looking brushed metal. What, at first glance, you mistake for a delicate sheer curtain hanging inside this archway, as you get closer, you actually realize it's this translucent aura of some kind. It's not quite vapor, but it's not quite a solid. You watch a young woman step up and walk through the archway. As she does, this colorless aura turns blue for a moment. On the far side of the archway, a man wearing a sleek, all-black uniform stands at a podium on the far side. As the woman passes through, you see a slip of paper feeds up out of the top of the podium. He takes it, looks it over, hands it to the woman, and gestures her towards a particular spoke that leads off of the central chamber. After watching this exchange, you turn your attention back front and you realize you are now first in line. It is your turn to approach the archways.
The gods that this one speaks. You there. What is this?
You're talking to the gentleman in the in the booth on the other side.
Yeah.
He kind of looks up at you, and he gets a little bit of a quizzical look on his face, and he says, "Come, I can assist you. Step through."
Yes, you speak. Step through.
Okay. You step forward and you approach the archway. Elsewhere. Raku. You stand in front of the archway with its strange, colorless knot mist, and the uniformed man on the other side smiles slightly and gestures you to proceed forward.
I used to anything like this before, so I'm quite timid at first. And see that he kind of shuffles his feet a little bit closer and kind of keeps his eyes on the shoes of the man. So do you know where I am?
As you speak to him, he sort of tilts his head. He says to you in a soothing voice, he says, "It's all right. This is a safe place. Come, step through. I can help you."
Now, sir, I need you to understand. I got business that I need to tend to. I can't much go places I don't know where I'm going. I got a city I gotta get to. I got a place that I gotta get to.
All right. If you're still looking at his shoes, you can like sort of hear the smile in his voice, and he says, "I understand." He says, "Step on through, and we'll get you where you need to go."
He starts walking forward. You just hear him kind of muttering even more. I got business that I need to tend to. Got things I need to do.
He says, "I understand. Everything's going to be all right."
Keeps
You're
walking.
approaching the archway. Okay. You step forward, and you pass through the archway. And that strange vaporous aura turns not blue, as you've seen for everyone else, but a deep, angry red. And it does not fade back to its colorless state. You look up, and the man is stepping around his podium towards you. He looks confused. Up close, you see that he looks to be in his early 30s. He He has neatly trimmed black hair, just parted to one side and held in place by some sort of a hair product. His eyes are a shocking hue of luminous silver, and he looks at you with a searching expression before he says in a docile tone, "My name is Bargrave, friend. I'd like you to come with me."
Is there any sort of sound alarm, or is it just turned?
No,
red?
it just turned red instead of blue.
Okay. Upon seeing the red, he kind of just initially reacts, and you see him kind of arches back a bit, and you see kind of some of his claws kind of pull out, and he kind of lets out a low growl as he looks around.
And this Bargrave puts up his hands in kind of a placating gesture. He says, "It's all right. You're not in trouble." He kind of like looks at the light around you. "That light means you're special. It's my job to help people like you. Will you come with me?"
Like I said, I don't want no trouble. Just got business I need to tend to.
He kind of nods. He says, "No trouble."
His claws kind of slowly retract, and you see him that he kind of goes back to being a little bit more timid. You see it, he kind of shuffles some of his, has a little bit of fur around his sleeves that he kind of ruffles back down to calming, and he keeps his eyes on the shoes of the man and keeps on walking.
He falls into step beside you, and he kind of does his best to sort of gently guide you. And as you sort of move away from this podium that he has now abandoned, you see somebody else moves into place at this podium that he has now left to come with you. And you do a double take for a second as you see that the new attendant who has stepped up to this podium is exactly identical to the man who introduced himself to you as Bargrave and is now leading you.
Nah, so what's going on here? I don't like this trickery.
He shakes his head. He says, "No trickery. This is a safe place, I assure you. I would like to bring you," he gestures, "out of the general commotion. There are a few others who have had similar arrivals recently to you. I'd like to take you there and we can get all this sorted out." He holds up his hands again. "I promise, no trouble."
I understand, but I guess I had no choice but to trust you.
He kind of bows his head lightly. He says, "I appreciate that you're willing to put your faith in me. I'll try to do my best not to let you down." He says, "Come on." And he leads you off to the side of this large atrium. And he brings you to a nondescript door. She opens, leads you through, which leads into a long hallway. Beyond this door, into this hallway, the ethereal mystique of the space you were in before seems to have lost much of its luster. It just looks kind of like a normal hallway. You proceed for a short walk through a few other corridors before he brings you to a room. He opens the door, and he gestures for you to enter.
Keep my eyes on him as I walk in.
You walk in, he kind of steps in behind you. As you walk in, you see that there are two other individuals in the room already. They are seated in comfortable-looking chairs around a long table. Flair and Thorny, why don't you guys describe what Raku sees as he walks in and sees you sitting at this table?
I guess I'll start. To be more precise, sort of propped up against a chair is what appears to be a rather sizable shrub. With a couple of like larger, almost anthropomorphic limbs towards the top and then towards the bottom. And it just sort of rustles occasionally. It's very verdant. A lot of leaves, kind of hard to tell exactly what the trunk of this shrub is made up of. So it's rustle.
Okay. So you see a topiary and another individual. And Flair, what do you look like?
Flair is a tall and athletic fire genasi who is wearing something similar to Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. So kind of like this like bright orange like tunic that falls down into like a loincloth at the bottom. No mask, of course. He has this pale red skin and bright orange hair that kind of sticks straight up on the top of his head.
Okay. So Flair, you were brought to this room by Bargrave about a half an hour ago. Thorny, you were also dropped off about 10 minutes later. The shrubbery thing does not really seem to have, like, phased Bargrave. Both of you had the same experience of having to go through that arrival gate, and it turned red. And then Bargrave brought you here. He's now back a third time bringing another individual, Raku. And to you he says, Raku, he says, make yourself comfortable. I'm sure you have a number of questions. I just ask that you be patient for just a few minutes longer. There are, and he looks off to the side, 2 more of you on the way here, which we are hoping is the end of it. Once we've got you all in one place, we'll try to explain everything. With that, he turns and leaves the room, closes the door with a click behind him. And for a few minutes, the room is your guys, as the 3 of you are left alone.
Immediately starts using his nose and kind of sniffing around until he kind of gets closer to, I guess, Thorny, and kind of sniffs around his area a bit, and then goes over towards Blair and sniffs around a bit. And then you see him kind of go to the other end of the corner and kind of sits squat-legged onto the corner, just kind of sits and stares at you all.
While Raku is doing this, Flair is sitting in his chair, snapping his fingers off to the side, and sparks shoot from his fingers every time he snaps. And then he holds out his hand just the slightest bit, and there's like flames on his fingers that seem to reside, and then he'll snap again and do the same thing as he's flicking these things. And as Raku comes up to like sniff around in his area, he just looks at him very awkwardly. Oh, it turned red. My favorite color.
Ratson's also going to draw his claws out with fire damage. Just so you guys know too, what you all see for Raku, he wears kind of this, I forget what the shirt is called, but it's like, if anybody's watched the movie or read the book Tuck Everlasting, it's that kind of war undergarment shirt with suspenders. He looks very kind of like homely and ragged. A lot of the patchwork on some of his pants and his shirt. But just underneath his rolled sleeves, you see a combination of white, brown, and black fur kind of patched all over his skin. He has a kind of a calico patchwork on his face, but he has a lot of human features. But what's unique is that he has elven ears. That seems most prominent of who he is.
Okay. A few minutes go by, and do you guys at any point engage each other in conversation? Or you basically kind of find your separate. Well, one of you does seem to decidedly be being a potted plant at the moment. But I guess for the other two,
I guess
do you gauge each other at all?
Flair is keeping a safe distance away
Okay.
from the plant for reasons.
Okay. It was weird. The plant did like seem to come in under its own power, and Bargrave addressed it like it was just like a dude. But for all intents and purposes that you can see, like it's just like a bush in the room. And actually, I will say, Thorny, for you internally, whatever your usual version of this, like, this thing is, whether it's a very elaborate, like, ghillie suit, or some form of arcana or whatever, possibly here, depending on your sort of internal, feeling, like, you might actually be like a literal anthropomorphic bush right now. That is distinctly possible here. If in Thorny's heart of hearts, like, he's a rosebush, like, you're a human rosebush right now. Do with that what you will. I will leave that up to you as we proceed.
Actually, at some point, the bush will pipe up briefly in the direction of Bargrave. Can I get a glass of water?
He sort of nodded, nodded before he had left the room, but a short time later, the door does open, after you guys had been alone for some time. Not Bargrave, but another person returns, with 2 more people in tow. Hadrian, Aki, a diminutive woman wearing an identical black uniform to Bargrave's, leads the 2 of them in. She is slight of build with a shock of blue hair that cannot possibly be a natural color. She has the same silvery color irises that Bargrave does, though. And while his expression was more somber and kind of serious, she appears bright and cheery. And she's actually carrying a glass of water. She leads the 2 of you guys in. Both of you had Aki, your experience was when you ended up at those archways. It was this person that was manning them instead of like a Bargrave. Hadrian, when you passed through, Bargrave handed you off to this woman to take you here. She brought you guys both here, and as she walks in, she moves over to Thorny, where you are, and she kind of looks at you for a minute, and she goes, "Right, am I supposed to pour it in like a pot? You'll figure it out." And she just like drops it on the table in front of you.
And a little, arm comes out that looks very branched-like, but is also clearly has the ambulation, the overall shape of a humanoid arm. Reaches up and pulls it off, and just kind of like retracts it into the leaves. And
She looks at it. She kind of looks at it for a minute, and she goes, "Huh." And she goes, "Right, back in a tick, loves. Sit tight."
Just wait here.
She goes, "Oh yeah, get comfortable. Bargrave will be back in a minute." And she heads out of the room. So once again, you guys have a couple of minutes on your own, if any of you are doing anything or speaking to each other at all.
I will say. What was that?
Right. I was gonna say, there's just a noticeable, when you walk in, there's a noticeable seeming tension, at least on Raku's side, just watching how Blair is just playing with that sense of fire, and his claws keep kind of playing to come in and out, and just keeping an eye on Flair in every movement. Every time the snap happens, the claws kind of retract out one more time and kind of come back in.
Okay, well, when, I guess because I haven't explained what she looks like, she is a water genasi, so her skin is like a pale blue, and there seems to be almost like, not really tattoos, but it almost looks like a swirling of constant water underneath the skin, and her hair is a really dark sapphire blue, and it goes probably down to her shoulders, but she keeps it up in a tight bun at this point. And she does have almost like a tattoo under her eye as she enters. And she kind of just looks around the room and sees the fire genasi, and was like, "Oh hey, you're cute."
Awkwardly, he like recedes back into the corner of the room. Like he gets out of his chair and just like goes back to the corner of the room, as far away possible from you. And okay, so how long is this gonna take?
As long as you wanted to, darling.
No, I meant being trapped in this room.
Oh, well, I don't know. She said a tick. I don't know what that means.
Woman, I do not have... Damn it. Did not realize that she had left. So in turn,
yeah, what does Hadrian look like?
Hadrian, so he is rather tall and thin, humanoid. You assume human, because he's wearing, you can tell he's wearing chainmail underneath, but he is wearing a big, dark brown leather long overcoat and a tall, wide brim brown leather hat, with same, leather pants and boots and gloves. And you notice that there actually is not an inch of skin that is not covered by something. And even on his face, the top half up to about here is, it's almost like a stark white mask, but it is formed that you can still make out facial expressions when he moves, and the mouth, it sort of has this piece of black satin that hangs from like the jowls of the mask covering the face.
Very cool.
And the eyes are just essentially dark slits that you can really only see these almost like two burning coals that stick out, that pierce out from what you assume are eye holes.
Raku kind of goes around the room and says, "So, we got fire, water, and flora, and fauna. Death?
Are you all right, darling?
I just not used to seeing the laws of nature walking around as people like this, so... You know how to keep all that together inside you, right?" As he kind of like points at Aki's kind of moving water body shape.
Oh, this old thing. Yeah, she's quite nice, isn't she?
Right. And Raku's going to actually retract a little back to, not in the same direction as Flair, but in a different direction.
So ultimately, now we have two of our characters hiding in corners already.
I don't usually have this effect on people. Usually people come towards me, not away from me. I'm very confused right now on how these boys are reacting to me, and I'm not about it. What the hell? You have a gorgeous woman in front of you, and you all retreat to corners.
Let's not flatter ourselves.
Well, I can't say if you're attractive or not. I can't see you.
That is the point.
Mysterious.
I don't like you.
I love you too, darling.
Almost immediately following this little exchange, the door swings open, and Bargrave, along with the blue-haired woman, return.
Thank goodness the suit is here.
He quickly, he stops and he sort of you see him scan the room as you guys are in 3 of the 4 corners, and he goes, "Perhaps you would be more comfortable sitting."
Oh, sure. I'd take a seat.
I'm fine right where I'm at.
Very
It's
well.
not a move at all.
Because
He's just standing there like this.
he goes, "Whatever makes you most comfortable." He says, Thank you for waiting. Some of you I've already met when you arrived, others have not yet had the pleasure. Let me assure you I am quite familiar with each of you at this point. I would like to make that mutual. We're here, and he gestures to the other woman, to make what comes next easier on all of you if possible. I found a thorough round of introductions does help that process along. As I've said, my name is Bargrave. My associate is Mora. She goes, "Oi!" Says, "Our official job title is Afterlife Transitional Facilitatory Agent. But in terms more common to the Prime Material, we are what you would call psychopomps. Depending on your individual religious or spiritual systems, or where you come from in the world, your specific folklore may represent us in any number of ways. Most comfortable terminology for you about what we are might be any number of things. Shinigami, Anku, Ferryman. Of course, the most common nomenclature being the Grim Reaper. It is at this point, before we proceed any further, that we do need to get something out of the way."
Wait. You
Right,
telling me
hold-
we all dead?
He kind of bows his head a little, and he says, "It is my solemn and regrettable duty to inform you that, yes, you're all dead."
Bloody hell!
For what you done, man. This time, this ain't right. This none of this is right.
At that
so
mention,
young!
Hadrian kneels down and begins to pray.
Okay.
No,
Flair-
that can't
Flair-
be right.
Flair, you kind of hear Flair mumble under his breath. Oh, it must have been something I ate.
Two lower limbs of this thorny bush sort of cross themselves, and it shrinks a little bit down, rustles uncomfortably.
Okay.
Aki looks absolutely appalled at this information, like, oh no!
Mora
was kind of calculating in his head.
Mora steps, kind of like leans out around Bargrave. Says, "I know this is a lot to take in, but there's a might wee bit of a problem, and it does sort of involve you." And Bargrave says, "Indeed, there is a great deal of information that we need to impart to you, and time is of the essence."
Well, I could tell you what's wrong here. We're all dead.
He says, "Yes, and normally the adjustment period for this sort of thing would be much more delicate, but Mora is correct. There is an issue."
And on hearing that, Hadrian stands up and goes, "Of course there is an issue. There has been some sort of mistake, because clearly, if I have died, I should not be here in what is most obviously hell, with this woman of ill repute, this thing with claws, this whatever that is, and a plant."
Mind your manners, sir.
I think it's actually repute, not repute.
Mora goes, Mora's like, "Oh, we got a spicy one this time." And Bargrave goes, "Mora, please. This is a terribly traumatic experience for them. Delicate, please." She's like, "All right, balls, calm down."
I like you.
Did Bush just make fun of my accent?
No!
I think it did.
Stop that!
Jeez.
Bargrave kind of struggles to like control the room again. He says, "Please, I will try to explain some of this. This place," and he gestures around you, "this place is called Terminus. When mortals die, their souls leave their bodies, depart from the prime material plane, and come here. It is the last stop in the line before the great beyond. In order to ensure that proper measure of those souls is taken and that they find their way safely onward to whatever destination awaits them, the ruler of this realm created all of this. Terminus, the psychopomps, the order to everything here, it is all an extension of her will. A mechanism that works endlessly to one end, to send the souls of the dead on and maintain the balance. Without this place, it would be much more difficult for souls to move on when their mortal bodies die. Are you with me so far?
Sort of.
You hear like crunch, 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 and you look over, and Mora has like a little bag of like mini pretzels, and she's like, and he looks and he goes, Mora. And she goes, oh yeah, I was hungry. This part usually takes a while. Go on, don't mind me. And then she like reaches out and she like mushes his face to like push it back to face you guys. She's like, go, 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 go. And he goes, okay. Terminus is not intended to be a permanent destination for mortal souls. Souls have a certain energy that fuels them. From the moment a mortal dies, their soul begins to shed this energy, to degrade, so to speak. Mortal souls have a limited time after their body expires to pass on to the great beyond. If they linger too long, be that here or on the prime material plane, they become creatures known as shades. For right now, all you need to know about shades is that they're bad news, and that you would not wish an existence as one on your worst enemy. The part that involves you is this next bit. Almost all souls follow this same pattern, but occasionally there will be a rare soul that is different. We call this an irregular soul. An irregular soul does not shed its energy after death. It's quite the opposite. It slowly grows stronger over time. Given enough time, an irregular soul can become immensely powerful. But it is for this reason that the Queen takes such interest in them. An irregular soul with proper guidance can become an immeasurably powerful tool in maintaining the balance between life, death, and the great beyond. Their unique characteristics let them do what few others can. Irregulars are pretty rare, only 1 or 2 in every billion souls, but because they don't degrade, they can remain without passing on indefinitely. Anytime an irregular comes to Terminus, they are identified and given the same offer. An offer to serve the Queen and join a special organization made up of other irregulars, in order to use their gift to protect the balance. Which does bring us to the 5 of you. Well, I thought that'd get a bigger reaction.
Well, that checks out, honestly. I am quite special, so this checks out for me.
Honestly, I'm having a hard time concentrating with you eating in front of me.
She goes, hey, what, you hungry? You want some?
Absolutely, please.
She offers you her bag of pretzels. She just like gives you the whole remainder of the thing.
Fleur
you take
takes the
it,
bag.
she immediately like reaches into her pocket and pulls out another one and opens that and starts eating it.
Flair's just kind of like staring into an open bag. What did you say these were called?
Oh, have you not had pretzels? Where are you from? Oh, they're great.
Pretzels, you say?
Oh, aye. It's like little baked, twisted, bready things. I mean, of course, it's made out of pure psychic energy, as there's not really any food or substantial things made of matter in this place, but it'll taste the same.
Yeah, just slowly like inspecting, sniffing, and then like taking a bite. Just
I will not talk of this blasphemer bread. We will talk about
Who's this
important
queen?
things.
You mentioned a queen.
Yes, she is the... she holds dominion over this entire realm. She is... she's gone by various names, but... the most popular, perhaps even seeping into your cultures, depending on where in the world you're from, is of course the Raven Queen.
Stories about the Raven Queen. She ain't nothing to mess with, I know that much.
She gets a little bit more of a scarier up than I think she really deserves. She's not something to mess with, but she works to maintain the balance. Without her and without what we do here, well, everything would fall to chaos.
I am not Callista. I am not Callista. I am not Callista.
And this is not your mom's Raven. This is not your dad's Raven Queen. This is fresh hot Raven Queen from
Hell yeah!
from New.
So a little leafy appendage rises a little bit above the foliage for a bit. I have a question.
Yes.
What happens if we, don't want to spend the rest of our death doing what the Raven Queen wants us to do?
He nods. He says, "Of course. This is a lot to take in all at once, and it's more than should be asked of anyone. As I said, normally the adjustment process would be much more delicate, and I would not be pressing you as forcefully as I am now." And Mora finishes up. She says, "Aye, you should know. You always have a choice. You can choose to stay, and choose to work for the good of Terminus and the balance. But if you feel that your time here is done, you can always choose to go. It is as simple as heading back out into Terminus, heading to your gate and going into the light." And Bargrave nods. He says, "Indeed. If you do choose to stay on, you should know the arrangement is not binding or eternal. If the day comes that you are ready to move on, you are not bound here."
What's
Alright,
comes
sign
after
me
the
up.
light?
What was that? I heard "sign me up." What was the other bit?
What comes after the light?
They kind of glance at each other and sort of smile. You get the impression that this is like they probably answer this question 10,000 times a day. So they sort of grin, and he looks back and he shakes his head and he says, "That is not something that we can tell you, even if we knew." And Mora says, "Aye, what awaits in the great beyond is the last great mystery for mortals. It's not a question that you can know. It's a matter of, well, for you, someday, choosing to take that leap."
If we take this job, y'all saying we can potentially go back to the world to help these shade creatures go on their business, right?
Bargrave's sort of like, something like that. It's a bit complicated, and I will do my best to explain to you, but as I said, right now, time is a bit of the essence. I can give you a few minutes, a bit of time if you need to keep your own counsel or discuss with one another. But before we proceed any further, I will need to know whether you wish to stay on." And he
Yeah,
kind of
I'm
gestures.
not done yet.
He sort of gestures. He says, "Would you like the room for a few minutes?"
Yes, please.
And he sort of nods, and he heads out of the room. And Mora, like, scoops the remainder of the pretzels out of the little bag that she's got and just goes like, and then pulls another one out and tosses it to you, Flair. And she goes,
As Flair reaches out to grab it, you notice that Flair is actually eating the bag as well. Like it's just like you hear the plastic.
You.
she's like, as she sees Aki like interject, she's like, Hey, it doesn't matter here. It's all made out of the same stuff. Don't worry about it.
It really all does. It really all does taste the same. It did. You were right.
She goes, the power of the mind is a crazy thing here. Just be back in a tiff. Don't take too long. And she like closes the door behind her.
I quite like her.
She's awfully cheery.
We ain't got much time to do much talking now. You all says you want to congregate over something. I'd say it's in my best interest to take this deal for personal reasons. You all have any discrepancies, so I suggest you say so now.
I mean, if you boys, that's up to you. But I'm staying on.
I still have a lot more of the realms to see. I don't want to call it now.
Well, I think the options that we were given is give yourself a little bit more time to see a little bit more of them realms you speak of, or cross on over to that light side, whatever that means.
I'd rather see as much as possible before I cross over. I don't know about the rest of you. And he just looks towards Thorny, the plant.
What about you, Dark, tall and handsome? What about you?
You're referring to me.
Do you see any other ones?
I suppose if I am truly dead, then there are fates far worse than that. But I failed in my mission. This ultimatum given to me by these creatures is a possibility to get back to where I was. I
And
have
you'll
no
be in
choice
good
but to
company.
take it. That is debatable.
Should we bring them back in, I guess?
Yeah, I'll open the door.
Have you made a decision? And he kind of
yeah.
just looks at the plant.
Yeah, no, I don't want to go through the light. I just felt a lot of pressure when you were in the room.
Right.
That's the question. We're going to just all go on assuming that this plant is a thing?
It's
I mean,
it's talking to us.
You will
he
hear
seems
like
sentient enough.
a rustling sound, and then a little limb extends, holding what looks like a scroll. And the other limb extends out, and it unrolls it. And referencing some authority that probably doesn't exist here now anymore, there's a statement that decrees that this is an awakened bush and shall be granted like the rights of citizenship.
Adrian leads into read it and goes, I have left my spectacles in my mortal body.
Well, I'm Thorny Bush, and I'm alive. I'm a bush. That's what I am.
Are there any like leaves lying around you, like that have fallen off of you?
Probably not.
Oh, okay.
I'll go open the door.
Alright. You open the door, and just on the other side of the hallway, Bargrave and Mora are standing there. And Mora has got her like finger like this to Bargrave, and she's like, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you. And he's in the middle of being like, Mora, we're millions of years old, please.
I really adore you. You're top notch.
And they notice you as you open the door, and they both come back in. So they kind of look over you for a minute, and Bargrave says, so, you have reached a decision.
Seems the consensus is we're all in agreement to go forward with this.
He nods. He says, good. And he sort of like reaches behind his back, and then like when his hand comes back out, it's holding this long, slender, ebony box with like a lid. He sets it down on the table in between all of you guys, and he flips it open. And you see that there are 5 essentially like pins or like clasps or brooches, sort of a yay-sized thing. They are made out of a dark sort of brushed metal, and they are in the shape of a stylized butterfly that has been kind of constructed out of these interlocked geometric shapes. And he says, "Well then, welcome to the Black Butterflies."
Oh, it even sounds amazing. Hell yeah! I might just take one.
I'll take one.
Okay. So as you guys kind of take them, he says, "These signify your membership in the organization of irregular souls that work for the Raven Queen to help maintain the balance. Now,
I got a quick question. You've been saying that over and over since I met you. You've been calling our souls irregular. What
Yes.
exactly is irregular about our souls?
as I said, a normal mortal soul, from the moment that a mortal dies, it has a set amount of sort of spiritual energy that comprises it, and it begins to shed this energy to fade. This is how shades come to being. If a soul does not pass on by the time the energy in the tank runs out, it becomes one of these creatures. What makes your souls different is that you have no such limitation. Your souls, for whatever reason that is perhaps beyond even the knowledge of the Queen, your souls actually grow stronger over time. You are in a position, if I have not made it clear yet, that for all intents and purposes, you are all immortal. There are some circumstances in which your soul can be destroyed, but you won't die. You're already dead. You won't fade, and until you decide to pass on, you can exist in this place forever, continuing to grow in power. Some of the oldest irregulars that exist here in Terminus are mind-bending in their ability. He kind of looks. Says, does that answer your question, at least somewhat?
Enough to get what you need of us done. I am quite curious on what causes these type of phenomena.
He sort of gives a little shrug. He says, "On that, my friend, your guess is as good as mine."
Flair has Thorny's pin and is like gesturing over to him. Do you need help with this?
No, just throw it to me.
He tosses it over.
It lands inside the bush, and then you hear some rustling. Like a little limb kind of comes out, and it fixes it to like one of the sort of outer twigs, so it's visible.
Cool. Alrighty. So, Bargrave continues. Says, "Now, as I said, all of this urgency is a product of a bit of a situation we're having. In the aftermath of the 5 of you coming here at once, you see, it's caused something of a situation. I told you about shades, but they're just one of the dangers that faces the balance that Terminus is responsible for maintaining. They're deadly to be sure, but they are a known quantity, creatures that act on pure base instinct. There is another far more deadly foe out there. We call them Void Spawn. They come from a place outside the planes of existence. We know very little about this place's nature, save that it is a realm of unimaginable evil and darkness. The Void and every being that exists there share one united goal: cross the boundary and bring an end to existence. Void Spawn can't normally cross over from the Void into our reality on their own. But remember what we talked about souls. They are made of energy. Think of the crossing as a revolving door. The Void Spawn can't push it on their own. They need someone else to generate the energy for them. When a soul crosses over, it's like someone walking through the revolving door and pushing from their side. And if a Void Spawn is quick, it can slip in, follow the rotation of the door through the barrier, using the energy from the soul. Does that make sense?
I don't think doors rotate, they just swing.
He says, technology is a little more advanced here than in the Prime material. And he sort of like waves his hands in the air a little bit, and like essentially like a minor illusion of like what a revolving door is appears. And like a little silly like animation of like a guy going through a revolving door, the door going appears before your eyes, and then like as the door spins, like a little like monster comes out through the other side. He's like, it's like that.
That is heresy. Doors should be as the gods intended them.
Mora's like,
Doors are
Oi,
created by
well-
mortals.
well, the Raven Queen's a god, and she made revolving doors, so I don't know what your gods are up to, but maybe they better get on her door level, because we've got some advanced door technology in here, I tell you what.
Seems the other gods are a little bit behind in the times, it seems.
I mean, it kind of just seems like you combined a windmill with a door. I don't know if it's really bad, it's just different.
She goes, look. So here's the pickle we're in. Okay, normal soul, little bit of energy. Irregular soul, quite a bit more. 5 irregular souls at the same time, and all of a sudden there's a great big opening for something nasty to slip through. Something crawled across to the prime material plane as your souls made the transition to Terminus, and we can't find it.
What do
Lovely.
you mean you cannot find it?
Normally the Raven Queen's servants in the mortal world are able to track Void Spawn, but something about this one is giving them a hell of a time. A Void Spawn left unchecked in the mortal world can do terrible things. Since the Church's agents can't track it down, we are banking on a byproduct of a shared crossing, this experience that you've had with this creature. Since the Void Spawn used your passing to get to the prime material plane, there's a sort of resonance that you will share. We're going to send you back, and you're going to help the Church of the Raven Queen in the mortal realm track down the beast that came through when you crossed to Terminus and destroy it.
That seems like a typical track and take down mission that I'm used to. I'm pretty game. It seems like it's right up my alley.
What happens after we find it and destroy it?
He says, then, Queen willing, you can get some much-deserved time to process dying and beginning this afterlife is a lot on a mind. The fact that we are asking you to return so soon and to take this burden upon your shoulders is truly abhorrent of us, but we are...
No, that's fine. We can go back.
options.
That's great.
He says it is a bit more complicated than that, but all in due time. You've agreed to join the Black Butterflies, and we need to get moving, so it's time for us to go visit the tailor.
Oh, I was just going to ask if there was outfits. Perfect.
He kind of he smiles a little bit, and Mora goes. He goes, Mora, alert the church in the mortal realm. I'll bring them to the tailor, and you can pick them up when they're complete there.
I sure hope you have something that's a little bit fire resistant.
He
And
kind of
as he-
smiles and he says, "I think you'll be very pleased."
As and he does that, Hadrian, I guess, notices the fire for the first time and takes a large step back and goes, "Can you not do that?"
Kinda.
Does kind of.
Well, I can. But it's part of who I am.
Well, stop it.
Stop being who I am.
Yes, stop being
Right.
who you are.
Okay. Anyone have any experience in being someone else?
All the time,
Oh,
darling. I
yeah.
could give you pointers.
Just like
Say that. You watch as Raku kind of watching, his muscles kind of beef up, and you all watch as his hair kind of grows even more, and he kind of shifts into a full-on kind of calico ape.
wow. Should he stop doing that too?
No, that's fine. I just
That's
don't
pretty
like fire.
impressive.
I don't think you have to do what he says.
Oh.
You guys
Right.
realize that Bargrave and Mora like walked out of the room, and then like Mora like sticks her head back in. She's like, "Oi!
Oh,
All
right,
of it,
coming.
all of existence is in danger. Come on!"
Hadrian goes, "Just keep it away from me. I dislike fire."
As an ape, I'm gonna shoulder check him out of the room.
Flair will let like Hadrian go like first, like out of the room and keep a very safe distance. And if what is Aki like? Where's Aki at during this kind of exchange?
Center
Would
of
you be-
attention.
Center of attention.
I'm trying very hard to find a balance between staying away from Flair, but also not being so distant that I'm being rude.
Yeah. Doesn't seem like he likes me very much. I better.
We'll work on that, darling. Don't worry.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't take it to heart. You're perfect as you are.
All right. So, you guys head out into the hallway. Mora heads off in an opposite direction of the way that Bargrave is now leading you. It takes you further down this hallway that this room that you are in is on. It leads you down several flights of stairs. And you end up kind of, like pretty much in an identical hallway to, as far as you can tell, to where you've been. You're not quite sure how he's like knows where the hell he's going because this all looks the same to you, but he pretty confidently just like leads you on, and you reach this set of doors, and he goes, "All right, well, I will leave you in the hands of the tailor now. He will do his thing. Good luck." And he
Before
opens-
you go,
yeah.
you wouldn't happen to have wine here, would you?
He says, "Oh yes, we have
I
everything
get one
here."
of those. A bottle, please.
He sort of like, "I'll see what I can do."
Thanks, dear.
And he sort of like shakes his head a little bit as he just pushes the door open to like gesture you guys inside.
What
I go
about weapons?
He says, at that, as you moving in, he grins. He's like, "Oh yes." Points,
Yes.
He points inside. He says, "The tailor."
I died with a very important weapon. Will the tailor have that for me?
He sort of looks at you solemnly for a while, and he says, "That is perhaps a discussion for another time. For now, attempt to focus on the task at hand."
I go into the door. Not staying around for that aftermath.
Russell.
Russell.
All right. So you guys you guys enter into this room, and Bargrave closes the door behind you. You're in a large, almost like a gymnasium. It has like this polished wood floor. The whole space is empty, and there is like some padding lining a lot of the walls. At the far end, there is a sort of a bunch of kind of like tables arrayed around, and along those tables there are a bunch of like books and scrolls and papers and like a couple of like chalkboards upon which a bunch of like sort of diagrams of what almost looks like armor and like weaponry and things have been drawn, as if this is sort of like the schematic station of an engineer. And striding away from that little station in your direction is you almost mistake him for a dwarf at first, because he's like that short and that wide, but like not an ounce of him is not muscle. His arms are like this big around, pure muscle. The garment that he wears is like it is that same sort of like black suit uniform that Bargrave and Mora wear, but like he's ripped both the sleeves off. He has a large white beard. His head is bald. One of his eyes is missing, and there's just like a gross X-shaped scar over it. And he like stumps in your direction. You see that he's actually missing one of his legs from like the knee down, and there's just this like clawed peg leg that he's got attached to it, made out of looks like maybe brass. And he just like stumps up to you guys, looks at the group of you, and he goes, "So you are the 5 that everyone is making such a fuss about?"
I suppose we are.
I thought you'd be tougher looking. No matter.
Are you making fun of me?
This is... Oh, a fellow countryman. Maybe you're not as pathetic as I had first feared. Come, we have work to do.
Pathetic is looking as scarred as you are and walking on one hobbly leg.
Oh, right,
You know,
no need to be
we
mean.
call them people the grunts.
He looks at you for a moment, and there's this like long second as he just like stares at you, and then he goes, "Ha ha ha! Good, come on." And I think that's a good place to take a break, as the tail
Hell yeah!
is about to do his thing.